Hey guys, Double Wide 6, and today I'm taking a look at a lawnmower for a friend, and the complaint is that the carburetor is just leaking all the gas out of the air filter. So I'm thinking it's either a needle and seat problem or a problem with the float. Usually what I find is a lot of these plastic floats in here tend to bend over time, and this one is the Kohler XT-7 Engine. So we'll be fixing this today. Popped off the gas cap and it's bone dry in there. So it appears everything leaked out. Looks like two 10mm nuts securing the carb, and I got one over here as well.
Looks a little dirty in there.
Things look pretty dirty there, so I think what I'll do is use my block off plate, and this thing's just an old gasket and it has some duct tape on it, so we'll just quick put that on there and blow off this carburetor a little bit here. That's all it takes. One thing to look at that I know goes bad is the auto chokes, and you can see that they're spring loaded and this one's working fine. The engine's cold, so it's choking. I'll put a link down in the description if you're having trouble starting this engine, and I do have a video that'll be in the link on how to fix the auto choke system. I think now what I'm going to do is pull off the entire carburetor here. At this point, I'm going to have to remove this auto choke, and to get to that, I got to remove this little shroud. So we'll just take out these 4 screws. Okay, so the auto choke has this linkage that goes across here, and I'm going to try and remove that if I can so I can free up the carburetor. Got these little Torx screws, and hopefully this will free up what we need to. Still a linkage on here. Yeah, I think I can just unlink it as I pull the carburetor out. I gotta take off that fuel line. Seems like these things, every time they make a new model, gets trickier to work on them. And these things, they have a lot of issues with that auto choke. Alright, let me Just get a screwdriver in there. Should be able to get that fuel line to come loose. Also has a bellows up in here. There she goes. Alright, as I said, the fuel tank is empty. Alright, so let's pull these, we got a spring up here and a linkage. There's our linkage. Try and get that spring. Sometimes it's easier to get these with the pliers so you can bend it a little. There we go. Alright, so I think the carburetor's free. The only thing holding it is this linkage here, which looks like it's going to pop off. There we go. So we now have our carburetor free and we can look for the problem. Okay, so we're going to get in here and take a look at this guy. I think that was the wrong way. There we go. Alright. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check this float in here and see if it's filled up with water or bent. Sometimes they warp and drop. And that seems pretty good. So I am thinking that the problem may be just the needle and seat's a little bit gummed up. So carburetor overall doesn't look too bad, but I'm going to go through and clean this all up. I have the carburetor sitting here upside down in the vise. I went through and cleaned the carburetor. It looked pretty good. I did definitely see some fuel that was sort of gummed up, jelly-like. And what I want to focus on here is cleaning up the seat. This carburetor has a brass seat here. And judging by the needle, which I'll show you in a minute, I'm pretty sure the needle was sticking. So I'm going to use a Q-tip here with a little bit of carb cleaner. And we're going to spin that out to get a nice polish in here. Doesn't want to fit in there. Let's try that again. There we go. Yeah, that definitely got down in there. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's definitely some dirt that we took out of there. Hey, I wanted to mention I made these soft jaws that I got the idea to take pipe from 65 Ford and covered up these serrated jaws, and I'm real happy with them. The only thing I did is I stamped an F on this one and a B on that one for front and back. So if you want to check out his video on that, it's a pretty good video. Here's a look at the float. I didn't clean it yet. The float does not have any fuel in it, and it seemed to be sitting pretty level when I looked at it. But what I did notice is if you take a look at the needle, I don't know how well you'll be able to see that, but it's actually corroded. There's some white on the needle there. So what we need to do is clean off that needle, and I imagine that's what was causing it to stick. A little bit of corrosion, and cleaning out that seat should take care of it. Otherwise, all the other passages in the carburetor are now cleaned and look good. Alright guys, I'm just zoomed in on this needle and you can see that right on the center there's a lot of corrosion. I don't know how well you can see it. I really can't zoom in anymore with this camera. But I cleaned all the white off and I could tell it's pitted there. But the main thing is you want to clean these ribs on the edge of that needle, because that's what is going to glide up and down inside that seat. So I wire brushed this real carefully, and then I cleaned it with some carb cleaner. And aluminum does tend to rust. In fact, I was talking to a body panel guy about these aluminum truck beds, and he said that they're rusting out too. And what he was telling me was that the main reason they rust out is because there's 2 layers of metal on the truck beds that are really close together, and you know, you have salt and water and moisture that gets in there and it can't get out. So that's what causes them to corrode. Alright guys, I just want to show you this carburetor. I got it back together, and one of the things that happens with these things is that the floats sometimes tend to bend back in here where that hinge pin is. When you look at the carburetor, it should be pretty much level with the body of the carburetor. So the top should be parallel with this aluminum body. And you may notice that there's a spring in here that's connected to the needle, and that spring has a lot to do with the play of the float in this carburetor. So if you need to replace the needle, make sure you do that spring as well, and probably even the float if there's an issue related to the float like that. One thing that I'm doing here, I want to show you, is you can blow through this thing and make sure that that needle is seating properly. So right now that should be completely closed, and I can't blow any air through it, but when I flip the carburetor over, we should be able to pass air / fuel through it. So this is about ready to install. I'm just going to put the bowl on the bottom. Alright guys, we're ready to put this back together, but I want to show you how this little linkage goes on here, because it is a little tricky. So on your choke, let's bring it in focus, that slips on there just like that, goes through the hole, and then it points down, and it's on the back side of that U where that linkage meets. Then I believe you line this up with the studs, and you're going to push that in. And once you're on the studs, you got to line up the back linkage, which is the back part of the choke linkage. And you should be able to slip that onto this lever with a little bit of tweaking here. There we go. There. So that's how that slips on there, and then this little bracket, we don't want to forget that goes in place. And we want to make sure everything's moving the way it should. So I'm going to screw that down and just check that it's moving. 2 screws. So I got that auto choke linkage back together, and I'm just checking that it works, and it should move freely and spring back. That means it's working right. So there we go with that. A good thing to do before you take these apart is to take a picture with your cell phone of these linkages. If you don't work on them all the time, they can be tricky. And this one took me a couple minutes to figure out how to do it. So Just hooking up this little spring. Looks like I need a hemostat to get into here. They really don't give you much room. Jeez. Hey, I wanted to share with you guys, a lot of you have been asking questions about this mini split, and we're getting into November, and I bought this thing primarily for air conditioning, but it's also a heat pump, and I've used it about 3 times in the last week. It's been, you know, mid 40s, low 50s outside, and right now it's on. I used it today. I had it on during the video, and you can see it's set to 72. It runs really quiet. It's on, as I said, and I'm really liking this thing for heat. And I didn't, you know, I'm not even running my pellet stove out here. It's great. I really like it. So far I'm really happy with this unit. No issues. Gotta put gas in it. Didn't hook up the fuel line. Alright guys, so it's been a couple days and this unit has been holding its fuel and not leaking out the air filter. Seemed like the issue with this one was the needle just getting stuck in the open position. So it was allowing the gas to come out through the throat of the carburetor. And one other thing you can look for that can cause the same symptoms is a clog in the atmospheric air vent. When I cleaned the carburetor, I pulled off there was a little tube on there and blew that out, and both ends of the tube were connected. I've seen those get clogged up and it can cause the same symptoms. So thanks for watching guys, and stay tuned for the next video. Take care. Knock it off, kid.